done the animating the sphere and animating the cube. We just touch base with some basic fundamentals of animation, but obviously in your task you guys are tasked to create a animated door, opening and closing. So we want to create something similar to this. So right now I just have a simple door with an arch. All of these are separate meshes, so the first thing I want to do is join all these meshes. So I'm going to shift select that. You can either click on Control J, which is a hotkey, or you can go on Object and Join. So join all these meshes into one. And before we mirror this, we want to reorient this pivot point so it's more in the center, so it can create a nice smooth mirror. So we're going to click on Object, Set Origin, and we want to say Origin, which is your pivot point, to the 3D cursor. Alright, so now that we've done that, we want to go on to your modify properties, which is the spanner. Then we want to click on the drop down menu, and we want to click on this mirror icon. So immediately as soon as we've clicked on the mirror icon, we have an archway, which looks already decent. It's fine, I'm happy with that. But just for animation purposes, if I click on N, okay, N is fine. Let's see. Okay, these are all zeroed out, but besides the scale here. So maybe I'll show you for the actual door. So what we want to do, let me see if this actually has, oh yeah, so the doors has all these coordinates. So when it comes to animation, when you have all these coordinates, it does make your job a little bit difficult. So we want to clear this out, so we want to zero that out, so we can just work with simple whole numbers. So to do that, we want to obviously select the door. You want to click on Object, we want to click on this Apply tab, and we want to click on All Transfers to Delta. So when you click on that, that kind of frees your transforms, and it just zeroes out everything. So it makes your animation much more easier to use. If you've had a door that has this pivot point somewhere in the middle on the right, so we can reapply the same techniques that we did in the bounce and stretch animation, where we just selected to move the 3D cursor there. Then we have to snap the origin to the cursor, so we can actually have our pivot along the door. And this will give us this nice, so if I go on to the rotate, this gives us this nice opening and closing door effect. Alright, so before we do that, we still need to duplicate this door. So instead of using the mirror tool now, what I'll use is the duplicate. So I can right click, duplicate object. Then as soon as we duplicate that object, what I want to do first is to check out the scale. So on the x-axis, so we just want to make this x-axis -1. So it just flips it. And then what we can do is we want to scale that back. Alright. So I'm happy with that. What I would want to do is just change that orientation again. So I'll apply full delta, so I can make sure all of that is zeroed out. Alright, so that's a good starting point for now. And the first thing I want to do is bring up our graph editor. Click on new tab, graph editor, because now we're going to start animating. Alright, so the time, you guys can choose the timeline depending on how long you want your animation to be. But what I would do is probably make that 100, just for now. I can also just go on to our output settings. It's set as 100. That's perfect. Okay. So if you want to have more personalities to your work, obviously you can just research different ways of opening or different animations, so you can actually animate something which is similar to this. So let's say I can recreate an animation of a door which is just being blown by the wind back and forth. So what I would do is obviously just go on to frame 1, which is where we'll start off our animation. We're only going to use the rotate for this. So even if we click on I, rotation is the only channel that we're going to be using. So we'll click on I, keyframe it at 1. I'll move that over to frame 20. Actually, no, I'll move that over to frame 10. So we want to create something almost as if the door is blowing, just a little bit. So we'll say that is -8. I to keyframe, and move on to 20. And that goes back to 0. Keyframe that. And what I'll do is select the, so that's the left door. Let me just rename this to right door. So I'll just double click on that. Right. R equals right. Sorry about the coughing, I just had some tickle in my throat. Alright, so we have that. The door is slammed open, or it's just shaking a little bit. So I'll say at frame 10. As it opens up, I'll keyframe my rotation, which is I. That door will shut. And as that door shuts, this one will open up a little bit wider. So we'll say 15. Keyframe that. Go back to frame 30. Set that back to 0. Alright. So let's just see what we have. Just a quick shake. In fact, I probably want that to be a little bit more shaky. So what I can do is just scale. So I'll select all of that, make sure you have the 2D cursor here. So when at least we scale, it'll scale towards the current frame. So you see that arrow scaling towards the current frame. So what we'll do is just scale that even further down. So maybe yeah, something like that. Maybe keep it as a 10 frame. And I'll do the same thing for the left side. But what I'll do with the left side, I'll probably move it all the way up to frame 1, so at least I can track it a bit easier. Click on scale and move it all the way down to 10. So I'm looking at this section here, so I'm aligning that last keyframe to 10. And then I'll probably move that over to frame 5. Select that, click on G, and I'll move the first keyframe to be just on 6. Alright, so I have a quick, the door open, it closes. And at 20 I want it to hold at close. So just keyframe that just as it is. That means that it's just going to hold that keyframe. Then we want both doors just almost as if it's cuffing open. So I'll just move that like 3 keyframes. so just a little puff of wind, probably a -5. Keyframe that. Now do the same for the next one. Move that up. That'll be 5. Keyframe that. And then move that to frame 20. See how it looks on frame 30. Keyframe both of those in. And let me just quickly play it out just to see how it looks. Alright. So I feel like if I offset the timing just a little bit, because I feel like it's too in sync at the moment. So I'll just offset it just by 1 or 2 frames. So I'll select that, click on G, move that 1, 2 frames, play that out. Cool. So once it's done that, it gives it a little cough, and we want the door to burst open and boom. So at frame 40, we'll swing both the doors wide open, which is -70 on there, keyframe that, which is I, and this will be 70. Let's offset it, let's say 90, just so it's not exactly the same all the way through. Alright, so we have something like that. So right now we've gone up to frame 40, but let's see how that looks. Door open, boom, open. So that opened very slow. I wanted to have a more explosive open. Alright, so what I would do, so I just pressed I, the period button on the number key just to zoom in. Alright, so I just want big door blast open. So from 30, let's see how 35 looks like. So we'll select these two, G, move that back there, zoom out, let's see how that looks, play that out. Is that nice? Okay, so the left side exploded open nicely. So I want the right side to also explode the same way. G, move that along. G, move that along. And let's see how that looks now. So it's just about just playing around with it, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Let's see. I feel like I'll even reduce it to frame 33. But I might offset that a little bit, so I'll stagger the doors. Okay, 33. And I'll make this probably 34. Alright, that looks fine for now. Since I'm probably not going to go further than that, I'll change my frame end to 35. So I know that I don't have to wait for it to loop all the way around. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so that just looks, I'm just trying to recreate something like a door being burst open. The only thing that I would do right now is I'll change the easing, because if the door bursts it. The only thing that slows it down is when you smash it against a wall, or the hinges can't go any further. So what I want to do is just the last couple of frames there. I want to change that ease, so I'll select the last frame. I want to deselect this by holding Control, marquee, select that, click on G, and I want to move that straight in so it has that sharp edge, so there's no like slowing down as it goes towards the end of the frame. Alright, so I want to do the same for this last frame, so I'll select that, deselect the others, click on G, move that all the way to the middle. So that should give me a little bit of an explosion. So boom, boom, boom. Okay. So just so we can enjoy that pause right at the end, what I would do is probably hold it for 5 frames. So instead of it ending at 35, I'll end it at 40. We'll just hold that last frame just for dramatic effect. So boom, boom, maybe even longer. Let's say 50. Boom. Yeah, 50 is fine. Alright, so I'm just happy with that simple door animation. Obviously I can still work on it a little bit. But now obviously from there onwards we want to make sure you applied lighting accordingly, your lighting works. So we'll just move that lighting. So obviously you guys have done your lighting and texturing tutorial, so you understand all the different lightings, you understand the impact of how light can impact your scene, especially in game mode. We'll let that be. From there here onwards, all you can do is just go into your render settings or your output properties. You can customize your frames. Obviously we work from frame 1 to frame 50. You can set your filing, where you're going to save your file location. The file format, obviously we want to save it out as an animation, we want to save it out as a FMPEG video. You can also save it out as a JPEG, to be honest. Once you save it out as a JPEG, you can use the JPEGs or the images and put it into compositing software so you can re-edit that more. Or you can save it as a PNG, so you know that it has a transparency, so you can keep the keep an alpha channel, so you can just put this on top. So yeah, you can work around that, but just for this tutorial we'll keep it as that. Yeah, once you've done that, you want to hit on render. So you want to render the animation, so it's Command F12 or Control F12 to render that out. Alright, I'll let you guys go.